Welcome to this webinar by Dr. Sandeep Shastri on classrooms in post-COVID world. This is organized by the Center for Research in Social Sciences and Education. We are part of JN Deemed to be University. I'm Dr. Ritika Syal. I'm an assistant professor with CRSSE. I would just like to give you a brief background of what the Center for Research does. It engages in socially relevant research along with consultancy and extension activities in the field of social sciences and education. And our focus is on social transformation and empowerment. We serve as a resource center for research in various fields in social sciences and education and have carried forward in the field of politics, public.
Ritika, I think your voice has got.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, now you're audible. Yes, now you're audible.
Okay. So I was just giving you a brief background of what we do at the research center. And along with our research and consultation activities, we also do many workshops for training teachers and students. And our research and consultancy activities have taken place not only in India, but across the world, in South Sudan, Nepal, Myanmar. And our faculty members have undertaken qualitative as well as quantitative research projects, various themes of democracy, politics, and elections. Also, quality of higher education in institutions. We are very happy that all of you could join us today to discuss and share your thoughts on this very timely and important topic. And I would just like to announce that we plan to make this a weekly or a fortnightly feature, and we will be advertising the same very soon. Please keep a lookout for our posts and updates on the university websites as well as your emails. Well, if this was a live seminar, I would have requested all of you to put your mobiles on silent. But right now, I would request all participants of the webinar to put your Zoom audio on mute. It would be very nice if you have your videos on, but please, the audio should be on mute right now. Also, Dr. Priyanka Mathur and I are the moderators for this webinar. If you have any questions or interventions during the session, please post it on the chat box, and we would be happy to take the request to the speaker, and then we could take up your questions and points at the relevant time. I now hand over the session to Dr. Priyanka Mathur to introduce our speaker, Dr. Sandeep Shastri, and also the topic of the discussion for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ritika. Good afternoon to everyone, and a very warm welcome to the very first webinar being organized by CRSSE JN Deemed to be University. I'm Dr. Priyanka Mathur. I'm Associate Professor here at CRSSE JN University. It's my humble privilege to introduce the speaker for our webinar today, who is someone who absolutely needs no introduction. Our very esteemed Pro Vice Chancellor of JN University, Dr. Sandeep Shastri, who's also the director for our Center for Research in Social Sciences and Education. As Sir humbly says, he's a teacher, but a learner for a lifetime. And as an educator par excellence and a professor for more than 3 decades, for Professor Shastri, the classroom is like a temple because work is worship. And for all of us right now in the post-COVID world, our conception of our work and our classroom is definitely changing and has changed. We're all suffering from internet and Zoom fatigue, and we no longer have the physical cues that we take in the classroom or the brick and the mortar buildings. And it's very important for us to put that in a wider perspective as to what is this classroom now in the post-COVID world. And that is exactly what Professor Shastri is going to be illuminating for us in this coming webinar. So I hand it over now to you, Professor Shastri. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Priyanka, for that very, very special welcome, and to Dr. Ritika for having introduced the institution that all three of us with Dr. Maithili are part of. As I scan the participants in this webinar, I have people here who I have known since the 1980s as a teacher, who have been from my early batches. As I was scanning, I thought we have 3-4 types of people who have come in here. We have our current PhD students at the university who have joined the webinar. Many of my colleagues at Jain University have joined the webinar. Many of the alumni of Jain have also come into the webinar. Many of my students from Jain and also earlier when I used to teach at Bangalore University have come in. And the last category which I'm also very delighted about is people who may not know CRSC or Jain or me, but have seen the advertisement of this webinar and have come on. And it's a delight to see all of you on this screen on the side as part of this webinar. Those of you who know me would know that I would like to make this as interactive as possible. I don't want this to be a one-way street. I would like this to be interactive. So whenever you have a critical question that you would like to raise or an intervention you would like to make, please put it in the chat box, and then either Dr. Ritika or Dr. Priyanka will alert me to it, and we would then ask people who are participating in this webinar to step in. Whenever I need people to step in, I'm going to just randomly look at the screen before me, and whoever I find who I think I can make use of to comment on what I want them to comment, I will seek their support. So let's begin the dialogue that we have to have today. Let me straight go to my first slide. Now, Minu, when you look at this first slide, what do you think? You can see the slide in front of you. You have an imagery which is there in front of you, and you have done your PhD in fine art, and that's why I came to you straight away. When you look at this imagery, what comes to your mind?
A door is open and welcoming.
A door is open and is welcoming
for the
wonderful. Yeah. Who was that? Who was that?
So this is Zabiullah from.
Okay. Zabiullah says there is a door open and it is welcoming people. I had asked Minu to make a comment. Minu, would you like to? Minu is a former PhD student at Jain who did a PhD with us in fine art. Minu, would you like to say something about that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sir, I see it's a very colorful image, though 75% is white, but I see hope and opportunities. Through this color, it shows a very positive visual.
Okay, it's a very positive visual. Minu puts it beautifully. In this whole background of white, these four different colors which are there make such an interesting contrast. And even in these lockdown days, we feel things are colorful and not only black and white. Wonderful, Minu. Sadia, what do you think when you look at this?
You'll have to unmute, ma'am.
Sadia, anybody, when I ask you to speak, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So what I find is that it's infinity. It's a realm where you are still to explore of infinite possibilities.
Okay, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
In a way, the classroom in the post-COVID world is a classroom where there are infinite possibilities. Yeah. Abhijit?
I see it's not the regular red carpet, sir. It's in different colors.
Okay.
We have varied thoughts on how we are going to enter this new opportunity that we are seeing.
Right. So while there is a red carpet that waits us first, there are other color carpets which wait us as we go ahead. So I think the post-COVID world is inviting us with a red carpet, but reminding us that the carpet could also soon change to other colors. I have a colleague of more than 30 years standing who is there with us here. Rajkumar, welcome to the webinar. Rajkumar, what do you see in that image that you have before you? Rajkumar, unmute yourself, please. Unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, sir. It's a wonderful opportunities which lie ahead. We just need to avail of them and get ready for the challenge. The doors are left open always.
Very true, Rajkumar. I'm so happy that everybody who is there with us on this webinar is so positive in terms of how the future world looks for us. Sharada, Would you like to come in unmuting your mic? What do you see before you? Unmute yourself, Sharda. Unmute yourself.
Sir, I have unmuted. Sir,
Go
I
ahead.
see
Go ahead.
two steps which indicate that we need to rise to the occasion to get through that door.
Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, that's a beautiful point. That's a beautiful point. The door is open, but I need to rise to the occasion to be able to reach the door. I'm standing at the base, but there are 4 steps I need to cross in order to reach that door. Wonderful, Sharada, that we need to actually rise to the occasion to be able to reach that door. Friends, everybody's visualization was, I think, correct and was perfect. And now let me add, of course, as you all know, the theme that we are all dialoguing today is the classroom in a post-COVID world. But now let me share 3 images or 3 or 4 images. And I want to ask random people, Ritika, Priyanka, has anybody raised their hand to say that they want to say something?
Yes, sir, they have.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
Manoj Chaudhary.
give me a name, give me a name.
Manoj Chaudhary and Sujit Somsundar.
Okay, Sujit, you will get the next photograph now before you. Sujit, when you look at this photograph, what comes to your mind? This photograph which has come up on the right screen, what comes to your mind when you see this photograph?
This looks like a futuristic classroom,
right?
Where the seats are and the screen is multi-dimensional.
And fantastic. I think Sujit has hit the nail on the head. He talks of the multi-dimensional screen. You don't have one screen. I can clearly see at least 4 screens there. And I think they understood physical distancing very well. By the way, I don't like this term social distancing, because I don't think any of us are going to do social distancing, because emotionally all of us have to continue to be close. What we are going to do is physical distancing, maintain the physical distance from each other. And that's what you see is happening in this possible classroom of the future. Who else has raised their hand, Priyanka?
Sujit and Manoj and Sujit.
Manoj, would you like to say something on this photograph? Manoj, are you there?
Yeah.
Suresh, I see you staring at the screen. Would you like to say something on the photograph?
Sir,
Either Suresh Kumar or Suresh Kumar CP, one of you.
Right. Sir, it is exploring the unknown, sir.
It's exploring the unknown. Yes, yes, it's exploring the unknown. Very true. Very true. Now, CP Suresh Kumar, what is this that you see in front of you? On the left corner down? Left down.
Yeah, a person trying to talk to so many people at a time.
Yes, this is a Zoom classroom, obviously.
Yeah,
but a Zoom classroom where the facilitator studio maybe and this session.
Okay.
Else? Feel when you see the photo on the left corner down. Apurva, could you hear me? Apurva, what do you make of the photograph in the left corner down? Unmute yourself, Apurva. Unmute yourself.
Upcoming classrooms?
Yeah.
Coming classroom. Do you think, would you be happy to sit in such a classroom? Would you be comfortable sitting in such a classroom?
If the need arises and we want to learn, I think we'll have to adapt.
Sure, sure. Prashant, welcome to the session. How do you look at the classroom which is there on the left corner down?
As a conservative myself, I believe in direct eye contact and understanding the students, but this will be a new world to connect to. So looking at students digitally and connecting would be a challenge.
So tomorrow, do you think your civil service coaching classes, you may have to do it like this?
Probably.
Yes.
Considering the wavelength at which we connect with 150, 200 students in a class, this may be the future ahead.
That's true. That's true. Altaf, What are these four young ladies doing in that photograph?
I believe it's a group project, and one is trying to help the other. One is the mentor, I believe.
You're right. Somebody told me it is 4 students comparing notes on what happened on their internship that day. They are all doing their internship, which I think will be also a part of the new classroom in the post-COVID world. And these 4 people are sharing notes on what happened in their internship session that they had attended on that particular day. Let me come to the last photograph. Akhil Srinivasan, what do you see in that last photograph?
Sir, I think the future. Maybe
Yeah,
the future
yeah, very
education.
much it's the future, but what do you see them doing?
So it's not that much. Wait, sir.
Okay, okay. Sauri Rajan, what is that happening in the last photograph down right?
What is this?
I think everyone is hiding their face.
Very true.
Very much involved in digital platform.
All of them have their tabs before them.
Yeah.
Yes,
All
they
of
are
them are
obsessed
looking
with
into a
the
tab.
tabs.
I don't know whether the one in the middle has gone off to sleep on her tab, but all 5 of them are very intently looking at their tab. Shivram, what is happening in that one?
Sir, I think, the table has a display panel is what I could see. So it's an example of Internet of Things where every day, equipments in our house like dining table or a simple wall will be digitized. And I think that's where we look at now.
Very true. Very true. Friends, I wanted to use these photographs to talk up the 4 steps that we need to take to be able to understand the classroom in the post-COVID world.
Sir, may I intervene? There are
Yes.
a lot of participants who are sharing their thoughts on the chat. So
Okay.
I thought a little bit of sharing of that also would be very interesting. There is virtual classroom, the importance of need to be heard, current classroom, which is inevitable, great personalities are going on, discussion discussing in this photographs, virtual classroom reaching out to the global audience. There is one learner and too many teachers also. Well, there is virtual classroom with the wider connectivity, which is a borderless classroom, and it is also a changing culture scape, sharing their learning and analysis. This may be for
Wonderful.
the third picture that you showed.
Wonderful.
Future classrooms, and also each one own way of learning. That is, those are some of the comments which have come in.
Wonderful. I don't know if any of these chaps have already seen my PowerPoint, because many of the things that I wanted to say in the course of the next 1 hour is already here, which is a good thing, which means all of us think alike on a range of issues. Thank you so much for these inputs. Please keep them coming, and we will bring them in as and when it's possible and as and when it is relevant. Let me come to, friends, the first step, which I think is important as we move into our post-COVID-19 classroom. And what is that first step? What does that first step involve? The first step. Manjula, do you agree with that first step? Manjula Veerappa, do you agree? Please unmute your mic, unmute your mic, unmute your mic. Do you think this word which is coming up there is going to be part of our classroom?
Yes, sir, definitely.
Why? In what?
Yeah, we are trying innovative because this is something very new to us as teachers or as students. We are trying to reinvent things for us.
Now, I'll just make one word of caution, Manjula.
Yes,
when
sir.
you said this thing is new to us, obviously you meant online, right?
Yes, sir, online digital learning, what I'm
But
talking about.
I'm just pressing the pause button there.
Yes, sir.
I think today there is a obsession with online. There is a feeling that, oh, everything is going to be online. And if I could use computer language, online will not be the default mode. I think our future classrooms, post-COVID classrooms, online will not be a default mode. It will be one of the options. And I want everybody to please consider that fact. Because for the last 46 days, we have all been so busy communicating online with our students, with our colleagues. Somewhere within us, the feeling has said that this is the only way things are going to happen. I think we need to be a little cautious on that. While online is going to be one of the innovations, it will be one of the multiple choices we have in the days ahead. So that's one point I'd like to make as we take that step forward. Let me go to that second step that is there. Bharatraj, what do you think about that second step? I think your PhD was on that second step, right? Unmute your mic.
Unmute. Yes, sir.
Bharatraj,
Yes, sir.
was your PhD on that second step?
Yes, sir.
That's how I remembered you at this stage.
Yes,
Go ahead.
yes, sir. We actually.
How important do you think flexibility is as we move forward?
It's both, sir, on the students as well as the teachers. I think we need to be flexible in all aspects, because the reason why I'm telling is the learning quotient also will be different based on,
Very true. Very true.
So
Very true.
you need to be highly flexible, and a teacher has to look into reach all the people. So
right.
Unless his flexibility is difficult, sir. Actually.
Right.
Again.
Right.
We need to keep students engaged, committed.
Can I raise a point?
Sir.
A lot of people, I think there is a big danger today of linking the lockdown that we are facing with the new normal that we will have.
Okay.
Lockdown is not the new normal. Lockdown is a transition. The new normal will be very different from the lockdown. Today was the first day since the lockdown started that I actually went out of my house. I went to the university campus today because there was a very, very critical meeting for which I had to be there. So I ventured out of the house. There is no doubt that the world around me had changed. The world that I had seen in the third week of March before that lockdown happened, and the world that I saw today, both in terms of what I saw, what I heard, what I felt, what I experienced, was very different. And I suspect it will be more different as we move forward. Now, I want you to think for a moment. Let's not assume that what we have found in the lockdown is something we are necessarily going to see as a key feature in the normal post-COVID world. I don't know if we can use the word normal. I don't know whether anything will be normal in the post-COVID world, but then the new normal, if you could call it that, the new normal in the post-COVID world will be different from what we have. And I think one critical element of that will be flexibility. Let me also simultaneously look at what is coming in the chats when I go to the third word. Access. Shantkumar, you talk of innovative mode of interacting. Now, would you like to say something on that? Shantkumar, would you like to unmute yourself?
Sir.
Yes.
So it's some means of innovative interaction, actually.
Okay.
I feel like that, sir.
Very true. Very true. Shri Krishna, you are there? Shri Krishna, do you think the classroom of the future will have certain questions of access coming up? Are there going to be issues of access?
Access should.
Krishna, can you hear us? Abhijit, you make a very important point. We have to move out of our comfort zones and explore new avenues. Abhijit? Abhijit Chenoy, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Abhijit, you say you have to come out of our comfort zones and explore new avenues.
Yes, sir. I think we have gotten used to a kind of status quo where we are used to teaching our subjects in a certain mode, in a certain way. and we need to break that comfort zone and try and express us in new ways, given the same topic.
So access is also about being able to access new opportunities, new ways of thinking, to be able to access something which we have not been used to till now or not been comfortable with till now.
So
in a sense, for me, access is also about that.
So Sri Krishna is online now.
Okay, Krishna, would you like to come in on that?
Yes, sir. Access and availability is the requirement.
Yes.
Where whatever the things that we are doing, and online we are teaching to the students. There, the flexibility is also another point which has been coming across.
Sure, sure. Krishna, have you faced this problem in your online classes that students told you, sir, I have no access to internet, so I can't attend your class?
Yes, sometimes
have you heard that complaint? Now, so now, as a teacher, you have to access him who thinks he has no access to you. So we are not talking of access of the internet alone. We are talking of new forms of access now. You see, how do we reach out to people
New forms of access
who,
now also.
Otherwise are not reaching out to us? So access is not just about technology. Access is about various other ways of being able to emotionally reach
Other
out
ways
to
of teaching.
Right? Veena, you say that
Yes, sir.
there will be several new normals. Can you elaborate on that, Veena? Veena, can you hear me?
See this as the flexibility and innovative ways of interaction increase, not just in learning, but even in our any communication for that matter, and how things can get very subjective.
True.
So what one describes as normal may mean something completely different to the other person. And things are going to be more mental also. See, when we are physically present, there is an element of what happens to the body and the emotions and those part of the body. And we are going to depend more on words. So it is also, I don't know, I'm little scary about it.
You're scared. All of us are scared because uncertainty always makes people a little apprehensive of what's going to happen.
No, I'm scared of making our communications too very wordy.
Okay.
That is a very limited way of presence, is according to.
True. Accepted. Shivram says access also means availability and convenience, where you have access to experts more easily. Shivram, please elaborate on that.
Sir,
Shivram, go ahead. Yeah.
See, I have registered for a 2-day online certification course tomorrow and day after on Indological research. So in that, what they are doing is they are bringing in experts from various countries, which is otherwise very impossible for a starting researcher like me to have access to those experts. So I think because of this, because of COVID, we are using these online options more frequently, and because of this, the access and availability of these experts is more conveniently available. I think that's what I meant.
Shivram, you have brought me to the next point I wanted to make. You have brought me to the next issue I wanted to raise. I think the whole way we look at boundaries of our classroom is going to undergo a dramatic change. I think what Shivram said about what he's going to do from tomorrow, which he did not have a chance to do in the pre-COVID phase, I think clearly shows, and we're going to talk about this much more. I think this physical boundaries which were so often spoken of when we talked of our classroom. Most of us, when we visualized our classroom, we talked about walls, we talked about desks, we talked about such things. But when we talk of a classroom in the post-COVID world, I think the concept of the boundary that we are talking there, I think is very, very, very different. Kishan Srinivas, you say to make classrooms more similar to work environments. What do you mean by that?
Yes, sir. All the outsourcing world was any which way using virtual means of working. I feel that if we just roll this out from a student's perspective, students are already engaged and are aware of how to probably interact virtually, and kind of helps enable them to get a much more closer view of what they would expect
True. True.
Some,
True.
some,
Yes. Yeah. Go
some,
ahead, Ritika. Go ahead, Ritika. Yeah.
Mekhla ma'am makes a very relevant and a similar point that it is similar to Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak's argument that classrooms are borderless without walls.
True. And I think in a sense, we are moving towards that as we prepare for the post-COVID world. Any other, Priyanka, Ritika, any other comments you would like to highlight which have come up? Yeah.
Diana is also saying that, this online teaching is very precarious, and this precarity is potential. And there are
Diana,
comments.
elaborate on that. Why do you say it's precarious?
Diana, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Diana, why do you think it's precarious?
I think when we talk about internet or technology per se, the way in which people access it is very, very different. Like, for example, a Swiggy app, thinks when we use the app is very different from the way the delivery boy uses the app. For him, this idea of functionality, sometimes it's a force, and it's not something out of choice that we're doing, right? So in that sense, accessibility is always, it's very indirectly or implicitly put on us, and sometimes it's a force in that, coercive force.
Sure. Manoj, you are saying something very interesting there. Boundaries in terms of destroying walls, but in other ways it can be contradictory to accessibility. Manoj, go ahead.
Sir, in terms of when we talk about boundaries, maybe like we can shatter walls, but when it comes to accessibility as such, may not be we can reach everybody. Like access to online teaching, not many students may have. Like as a teacher, I have seen that most of my students, they say that they are not in position to access. Maybe it can be internet or other facilities or required sources or so. So boundaries we may shatter in terms of walls or physical. We can reach them in that term of distance. But maybe there are other boundaries which may hold us down.
Yeah. Some boundaries may be shattered, but some boundaries will continue to loom large, and those will have to be scaled by us. Yes.
Sir, may not continue, but there can be other boundaries which might be, upcoming.
Very true.
So we have Madhavi and Suchismita who had raised their hands.
Okay, let them both speak. Yeah. Madhavi first and then Suchismita.
Yes, sir. Sir, I am so intrigued with the way this is going ahead because it's so relevant, but what is repeatedly connecting back and resonating beautifully in this conversation is what one of the participants said, there will be many new normals. And when I look at innovation, when I look at flexibility, access, boundaries, I think this phrase aptly adapts itself to all of these things. And when I look at the way we deliver in the classroom, because for 2 whole months, I had to take online sessions for postgraduate students on Zoom. Every aspect of it had something new. And for the first 1 week, it was like, okay, this is new. Okay, I'm learning it for the first time. Oh, I didn't anticipate this. Really, is there an error, something like this that can even exist? So there are so many new normals coming out of it that I felt that should be applied to each of the steps, and the way you have named them so beautifully and thoughtfully. There are new normals for innovation. There are new normals for flexibility. So I just wanted to...
so we'll give a prize to Veena for coining these new normals for us.
Yes, new normals. I think it catches all the vitality of the conversation.
That's true. Kaushik Vijay, you make this point that one of the challenges with this online is that there is no eye contact that is possible. Kaushik? Kaushik, are you there? Eye contact is not possible in online classrooms, you say. While I agree with it that our traditional eye contact of the face-to-face classroom is not there, but now I can see Satyaprakash ji very clearly, and I can keep eye contact with him, just as I can keep eye contact with Srividya now, who is looking at the screen and about to break into a smile. I think we have to adjust to the new ways of eye contact that this online platform offers us. So, Suchismita, you were wanting to say something.
Hello.
Yes, Sushmita, go ahead. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, in this post-COVID world, I realized one thing, that we need to be very able. We should know that how we should use the technology. We should be very flexible. And another thing, the problem I face, that there are many students. In fact, they don't know, the parents also, they don't know how to use the mobile phone, the internet and all, how to use these apps.
Okay.
So some kind of...
So we'll hold back that discussion. There are certain interesting points that Srividya and Rashmi have raised. And both these points I will come to in a moment in the next few slides. Rashmi says that all these 4 points are a challenge for us in performing arts. And I would like to challenge Rashmi that it is not a challenge in performing arts, but let's come to that in a moment. And before that, Srividya made a very important point, which I'm trying to get through on. The situation has made us all realize that we have much more potential to adapt to. But both these issues I'll come to in a moment. I'm going to now share 2 quick slides, which both these slides have only, the next slide has just 1 line. And I want everybody to think of this 1 line. How many of you would agree with this 1 line that is there? There is no question of returning to yesterday's ways. Yet there is an uncertainty about tomorrow. I think a lot of the debate that goes on in our minds, that goes on in our sessions with people, is this question. That there is no question of returning to yesterday. Neither is it a choice, nor is it a preferred option in some senses. I think this lockdown period has exposed us to so many different things that returning to the ways of yesterday seems to be something which would be tough. Yet we are talking of an uncertain tomorrow where we really do not know how things would pan out. Friends, I wanted to share a pictorial representation of classrooms across the last 4 or 5 decades. I've started with 1980. Here is a photograph of a classroom in 1980. Nava Goswami, what does that classroom look like? The 1980 classroom. Nava, unmute your mic.
Yes, sir.
What does that classroom look like?
Classroom is look like teacher is standing and students are just looking at the teacher. And,
okay.
Basically, they're observing the teacher what teacher is doing.
Rajkumar, can you tell us something on this photo? Rajkumar Jain?
I unmuted now.
Can you say something on this photo?
Familiar empty chairs and a teacher reading from his notes, which have been prepared and passed on from generation to generation.
Right. Can you recognize that teacher, Rajkumar?
I try to zoom in. Professor C. Srinivas?
No.
No, I got it wrong.
This is actually in 1980 when I was doing my master's and I had to take classes at Vrindavan.
Oh,
That's
wow,
me
okay.
actually taking a class there. That's actually me teaching there in 1980, way back in 1980. Yes, we had to have our notes in our hand. There was no PowerPoint. There was no, everything had to be in the written word. And I had a class which was paying, in fact, to correct it, it was not actually a class. There was a seminar which we were doing and I was just making a presentation and people were intently listening to me as part of that. Chetan, I want you to look at the second photograph. Look at the second photograph.
Yes, sir.
Can you make out that odd instrument which is lying there in front of the class?
Sir, I think it's the OHP.
Yes, it is the overhead projector, which Srividya would remember, Mala would remember. We used so often in our classes in the 1990s,
Yes, sir,
when the PowerPoint had not yet come. This was the way. And I'm showing this for those who may not have seen that classroom of the 2000s, who have got into classrooms only more recently, the higher education classrooms. Now, this was that overhead projector. We used to put those plastic sheets below, and that used to project what we wanted on the screen which was in front. Purvi, have you seen this classroom? Purvi, unmute your mic. Unmute your mic.
Yes, sir, definitely. In fact, I remember when I used to be a
This is the type of classroom all of us have been in the last 45 days. This is the classroom all of us have got used to in the last 45 days.
Yes, sir. Actually, I used to use OHPs for MBA students in
Okay.
Bagalkot.
Okay. Okay. Shivram, look at this class which we are likely to have in December. What strikes you in that class?
It tells that Corona is still yet to subside. It's so.
Shivram, Corona will subside. The mask will not subside. Now, physical distancing, the fact of Corona, and the fact of the mask being there. And this was something I saw as I went to the university today, an important change. I had to wear a mask throughout my way out of the house and back home. And I saw everybody around, even people who may not have had too much of access to education, all of them were wearing their masks and being very careful on the streets. And I think of the many people I saw on the road, I may not have seen more than 2 or 3 people who did not wear a mask. There may have just been 2 or 3 people who still wanted to show that they are very, very healthy. And of course, they were men and wanted to show they're very macho and therefore did not require a mask. So save that, I think everybody else understood that this mask was very important for them and they had to keep it on. Tanya, I want you to look at the next photograph and tell me what's happening in that photograph. People say that maybe the classroom of 2025.
So it's a robotic class?
Yes, yes. It's a robot taking a class.
Yeah.
And students seem to be paying attention to what the robot is telling them. Shireen, would you want an English class which would be like this? The last photograph. Shireen, is that an English class you will be comfortable with? Please unmute yourself, Shireen.
Yeah, I've unmuted myself, but I cannot see the picture very well. I'm not able to.
I'm asking you to look at the right top corner.
The one with the masks.
No, next to the mask, to the right of the mask.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that's not showing up on my
Okay,
screen.
okay.
So
Manjula,
well.
can you explain that to us?
Sir, it's a robot taking a class, and
No,
definitely
the one above that. 2025.
So it looks like yeah, some digital thing on the table there without any people around.
Shivram, explain that to us.
Maybe it's all a pre-recorded.
Okay. Okay. Yes, it is. Shivram, go ahead. Explain to us that class.
Yeah. So basically, this is a new technology that is coming, which is about digital panels, where our everyday furnitures like dining tables, chairs, or walls in our homes will be having digital panels. And these are touch sensitive digital panels. So they will double up as table, coffee table, and also your seeing panel.
Thank you. I just wanted to use this visual display to take us across a 45-year journey as to how the class is likely to change from 1980 to 2025. Ritika, Priyanka, anything you would like to say at this stage based upon the comments you are noticing?
There's just a concern being voiced about that won't this lower productivity and creativity?
Anybody specific who said that? Anyone from the audience who felt that the classroom of tomorrow could well lower our productivity, please feel free to unmute your mic and start a conversation.
Jyoti Parmeshwaran.
Jyoti, go ahead. Jyoti, go ahead.
Jyoti, are you there?
Yeah, Jyoti is trying to unmute.
Hello.
Herself. Jyoti, go ahead. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, Jyoti, go ahead.
Yeah, I do feel that it will limit creativity with respect to English classrooms, as we have just taken up that issue.
Okay.
Because
why would you say that, Jyoti? Why would you say that?
Learning in an English classroom is more about human interaction and sharing experiences rather than just like the last picture that we saw, the table having that virtual classroom. With respect to thinking will be enhanced when we look at human interaction. And human interaction virtually, of course, it is something that we are looking forward to, but in a way where not entirely captured by technology, that would be something that will, I feel, limit creativity and thinking as such.
Yeah, Jyoti, you're right. But let me just add a caveat. This last photograph I showed will not be the photograph in which all our classrooms will be. I'm saying part of the time it may be that. A large part of the time it may not be that. It may actually have face-to-face interactions between people. I think the point we would need to note is the multiplicity of mediums that we may all have to use as we go forward. That's exactly the point I was trying to make. Let us not assume that the lockdown world reality will be the reality of tomorrow. The lockdown world is a temporary phase. Yes, and what emerges tomorrow will have a lot of the previous coming back and several things new happening, and maybe some of our lockdown experiences also continue.
So Dr. Manisha Madhav also wanted to come in.
Yeah, Manisha, go ahead, Manisha.
Sir, since the lockdown, I have been taking Zoom classes, Skype classes, attending webinars. My entire experience has been that classroom is a place where the student and the teacher involved in a collective endeavor to deconstruct their ideas, to deliberate, to arrive at some kind of a collective understanding. Sure. That was important not just for the student. It was very important for the teacher also to understand when I am going to stop talking about theory and bringing a little joke to the student. My entire dilemma, I'm not saying technology is not capable of doing it, but my entire dilemma is that how does one in this digital and virtual world, this kind of collective endeavor may perhaps become difficult. That is one point. And second, second very important point, you've shown many pictures of classrooms today. My worry is that all these classrooms will exist in many different parts of the country. From the rural to the urban to the to professors giving lectures from abroad. And this will sharply increase the already existing divide in the society. So education as a leveler, as where we leverage to bring about changes in the society, that should not become a casualty in this entire fad for technology that we seem to be suddenly developing.
Very true. Very true. Very true.
Satyaprakash also.
Satyaprakash ji and then Prashant. Prashant also raised his hand. Satyaprakash first and then Prashant. Yeah.
Yes.
General Saab.
Yes, sir.
Please go ahead, Satyaprakash ji.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Yeah, yeah.
Sir, I had just one view that we in future we have to have a right mix of contact classes and non-contact classes.
Right.
Because the technology can be utilized as a you can say enabler.
Right.
A force multiplier. It cannot be a replacement for what is being done now.
Undoubtedly. In fact, Satyaprakash ji, this point you are making when I come to the blended classroom in 2 slides from now, that would be one of the issues I'd like to highlight. Prashant?
Sir, now when we look at socialization that happens, and we generally consider 3 mediums, family, society, and school or a college. So socialization through the students around, so friends around, or looking at teacher as a role model from every aspect. Now, that will be a very big miss. How do you bridge that?
Again, Prashant, we are assuming that among the new normals, there will be a default importance to internet and the offline, and that is something I would want to challenge.
Namaste, sir.
I would say that the online will not be a default option in the post-COVID world. The online will be one of the options in the post-COVID world, and there will be other options which will be available, which to a certain extent would help deal with some of the challenges that all of us have been talking about now. So that's just the brief point I'll make here, but I'll come back to that a little more in detail in a few minutes. Now, friends,
sir,
yes, go ahead.
Sorry, Dr. KSS Rao from CMS wanted to make a point.
Yeah, go ahead. Raoji, go ahead.
Namaskar.
Yeah.
Namaskar.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
This is regarding this VUCA, VUCA, VUCA. Really, maybe a few months back also, even though the concept was used like anything because of Industry 4.0, I not find much application part of it. But today, because of COVID-19, we can see the real meaning of VUCA, VUCA. Volatility, uncertainty, etc.
True. Thank you so much. Samita, I'm going to take your help now. Samita, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Samita, I have put up now on my PowerPoint. There are 6 small flower circles on the side, and in the middle it says classroom. And in each of these 6 circles, in a moment, a word will appear. And Samita, I want you to talk about the first word. And those who would be happy to volunteer to come in for the other words, please put your name, and Ritika and Priyanka will alert me to your names. But Samita, the first word.
Okay.
What do you think will be our mission in the new classrooms?
Oh, that's the mission is the first word?
Yes.
Okay. Our mission in the future would be to have a optimal balance of artificial intelligence enabled classrooms plus human enabled classrooms.
Okay.
Because if we completely make it online or virtual, then the sense of humaneness would completely disappear, and that would make us more like machines than humans.
Sure. So at the end of the day, the mission of our classrooms is basically knowledge transaction. It's basically about sharing of the knowledge that we have. That would be the ultimate mission of our classrooms. How we do it, that all these modes that Samita talked about become relevant. Archana, are you ready for the second? I saw you raise your hand. Archana, are you ready for the second?
Archana, please unmute.
She's unmuted, ma'am.
Archana, are you ready for the second point? Here is the second point. What is your vision for the future classroom? Archana? Can I ask Srividya ma'am to tell us what does she see as the vision for her future classrooms?
Sir, I see a vision of a more effective delivery tool. Since I am now equipped with more and more facets of teaching learning aspects.
Sure.
And I think my delivery mode will be much more, I think, exponentially effective.
Very true.
Where I try to blend both offline and online and bring out the best from both the technologies.
Dr. Shruti Nayak would also like to add here, sir. Dr. Shruti Nayak.
Dr. Shruti Nayak, would you like to come in?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, according to me, a guru will be more effective in the future, as I have mentioned in my chat, and will be able to do more research, get in more innovative ways of teaching, and will be
Okay.
able to definitely be more energetic and think more and not do monotonous work anymore, and try to get in new things by doing more research, and maybe even the energy levels will be higher because the travel time will come down. As
Right.
of now, I feel this can be the positive effects.
Harsha, can I ask you to step in for the third point?
Sir, Veena Hassan also for the next point.
Okay, Veena. And then after that, Harsha, I'm coming to you for the fourth point. Harsha, I'll be coming to you for the fourth point. Now I'm going to Veena for the third point. So Harsha, will you be ready to take the fourth point when we come to the fourth point?
Sir, Veena ma'am has also been asking for chocolates twice already.
Okay, okay. All chocolates in the post-COVID world. Okay, so Veena, here is the point I would want you to talk about. Values in our post-COVID classroom.
So values will be very much limited to this knowledge exchange.
Sure.
What we learn, and I kind of, it will be more theoretical. Can you
Are you
hear
sure?
me? Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
sure? Maithili ma'am, I want you to come in and tell us whether you agree with what Veena is saying, that values will be more subject oriented.
Values will, the way I see it, sorry,
Yeah,
values will not have anything to do with subject or something. What you want us to tell you about is, see, learning is more than just about the subject, as I just some time back posted. It's what we learn by human interaction, by being with each other. And as I see my own son sitting in his room, cooped up from morning till evening, 4 to 5 hours of class sessions that he has. And when he comes out, he's like a zombie. And he doesn't feel like talking for the rest of the evening. So
right.
If we talk about values that we get by learning from, by being with each other, by being with each other, because as a human civilization, as human beings, that is an inherent requirement for us.
Yeah, Maithili ma'am, what Amog is now experiencing is because of the lockdown. So I'm constantly reminding myself not to fall into the temptation to believe that the lockdown will be the reality of the future.
Reality, yes, true.
So as we move out of the post-COVID world, yes, there will be online classes, but there will also be face-to-face interactions happening. And this whole talk about blended learning will be a critical factor in that classroom. Jyoti, would you like to say something on that? Jyoti Parameshwaran?
Madhulika also here adds.
Yes, sir. Hello?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so as I also wrote in the chat box that in terms of values, the values will not necessarily change because they're very subjective to human age and every individual. So values will remain as they are because it's about human interaction and how well we connect with each other. So engaging in online classroom will not really change the idea of values that we perceive.
Sure. Madhulika, I have a question on these values. Will you help me with that question?
Yes, sir, definitely.
Madhulika, my personal view, I may be wrong, my personal view, the post-COVID classrooms will be much more democratic classrooms. It will be much more democratic classrooms because as teachers, we have seen how things have gone on online. We have seen how students have involved themselves online.
Yes, sir.
And we want that to continue to happen in our regular classes. It will require us to be much more democratic in our approach.
Correct.
In our attitude and in the way we deal with students in our classrooms. Would you agree?
Yes, sir, definitely. And I would also like to add that I think our traditional classroom setups is going to become very popular now. Very simple and small things like leaving the footwear outside, washing your hands and legs before entering classrooms. These are some basic things that we tend to forget about this whole COVID situation. It's not just about the virtual classrooms that we are talking about, but how to make the physical classrooms also much more welcoming and more easily acceptable to everybody. And that adds to the fact that it makes it more convenient to students, more healthy, and in many ways democratic also. Yes, sir,
Very true,
definitely.
very true, very true. Harsha, are you ready for the next point?
So Sujit Somsundar had raised his hand.
Okay. Sujit, Harsha, which of the two of you are ready for the next point? Sujit, would you like to take the next point?
You'll have to unmute the mic, sir.
Sujit, unmute your mic and then I'll put up the point. Let me put it up. The context of our future classrooms. Sujit, would you like to take that point? What will be the context of our future classrooms?
I think he's unable to.
Okay, anybody else who wants to step in on this? What will be the context of our future classrooms? Balaji or Rajkumar, one of you. What will be the context of our future classrooms?
Sir, K. Srinivas Rao has the point here.
Okay,
Sir,
go ahead, Srinivas Rao.
my idea is like this: it's more visualization. The student can see something, then only he can connect to the topic or our study of understanding. So visualization takes a very important thing here as the context is concerned.
Sure, sure. Balaji?
Sir?
Sir, good evening to all.
Good evening. What do you think will be the context of your future classroom? When you do your finance sessions across the country, what will be the context of those sessions?
So I think I've done something like 60, 70 hours of class in the last 1.5 months online across the country, of course. I think we had to focus more on visuals.
Sure, sure.
Sir, I was having a problem.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sujit here, sorry, I had a problem.
Sujit, would you like to say something? What do you think will be the context of the future classrooms?
I think the context will be to be more collaborative. How do we include all inclusive? How do we make it inclusive, and how can we make everybody have a voice in and have a role in education as a participant as well as a teacher?
Wonderful, wonderful. Srividya ma'am, do you think the people in our classrooms will change as we go ahead?
No, sir.
Discipline will be an issue.
I think they will cherish to come back to the classroom because that is what they have been missing now, and there will be more responsibility both on the part of the teacher and the student, at least for some time to go now.
Sure. But I'm also thinking, Srividya, in the long run, by long run, I mean, say 5 years from now, we may have a situation, given blended classrooms, you may have many more people now maybe stepping out of jobs and getting into classrooms. They may have the option of taking some
we may have a wider reach. We may have a wider reach.
Yes.
And it, as I said, sir, it will be a boundaryless classroom.
Yes.
And the visibility of the teacher is going to become global.
Sure. Arun, our music and dance department, Arun.
Yes, sir.
Arun, I want you to look at the last word because I've always found you doing this in my class.
What
the last word is
disruption. I'm sorry, I don't know how to read that, sir.
So do you think there will be disruption in our future classrooms? And don't look at disruption only from the angle of how you used to do it. No? I'm using the word in a much broader sense.
Yes, sir. Disruption, there will be some hindrances, I would say, not disruptions, actually. In the sense, for example, like we will have to wait for somebody's response, and also we'll be staring at a screen and not actually look at our students.
Again, Arun, don't assume the only class of the future will be the online class.
Yes, sir, I understand. I think the major glitch is going to be of the internet issues alone, sir. I don't think unless it is a practical class.
Yes.
I don't see any change in the classes as such. If it is going to be.
Dr. Priyanka, it looked as if you wanted to say something. I was seeing you on the screen.
I think so. Nikunj sir has a very good point here that it's about not disruption but modification and adaptation.
Nikunj is a very disciplined student, so for him the disruption word is a no-no when we talk about these issues. But Nikunj, go ahead. Tell us what you wanted to say.
Sure. I don't want to use the word disruption, but I would like to use the word modification as modification.
But would you like to elaborate? Why are you? What dimension of modification are you talking about?
Because disruption has a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be appropriate for us to use a word like modification. As teachers, we always need to modify and remodify ourselves, specifically in the post-COVID world. Thank you.
I think the limited way in which I would use disruption is, as a faculty, as a student, the post-COVID classroom, even if I don't want to, would make me change some ways in which I carry the dialogue forward.
Sir, can I talk?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I believe that instead of disruption, I would say it's going to be a shift in conscious awareness, because the mass consciousness would be affected by the pandemic, and its after effects will be pertinent in the data collection stage, especially for people doing research in the mental health domain and behavioral sciences as well.
Okay, great.
Sir, Sujit here.
Yeah, Sujit.
So rather than disruption, there could be some disconnect if, as a teacher, if you don't know how to facilitate and involve everyone, you need to learn how to take help of different medium, how to keep the classes interesting, because there'll be multiple students. There is no physical presence there. So I think we need to, except for that, I think there is always a positive thing to it. That can be a disruption only.
I am tempted to ask Socrates. Socrates, do you think there would be disruption in the future classrooms?
So there's a point about hacking also. What about online hacking as disruption?
Online hacking, yes.
Excuse me,
Socrates, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you come
Go ahead.
Sir is asked about what do you think would be the disruptions in the future classrooms? How could that shape a future classroom?
I think the main challenge will be people adjusting to the new way of delivering classes.
Okay, very good. Friends, we have 20 minutes more. I'm coming to what I would call the most critical slide I wanted to share with you all. And I'm going to devote much of the next 20 minutes to this. This is also my penultimate slide, so I'll be devoting much more time to this slide. Now, when we talk of the new age classroom, as many of you have been saying in the last 1 hour, what we are talking about is changing mindsets and not simply replacing our tools and techniques. I think the new classroom, new age classroom we are going to have is definitely about the way we, by we I mean everybody who is in that classroom, everybody thinks about, relates to, and participates in what is going to be that future classroom. And I have 5 points here. The first point, which I think is for me, the nucleus of the future classroom. The fact of blended learning. By which I mean, it's a planned process of transformation from virtual to online, which we now are in, to finally a blended of coming together of virtual, online, and other methods. Dr. Kokila, did you raise your hand to say something on this?
Yes, sir. Not about this, sir. About the previous last word.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that we have to adapt ourselves for the new technologies. Of course, students' expectations will be more in future. They won't be expecting the traditional teaching what we were doing earlier. So based on their expectations, we have to change ourselves. We have to adopt ourselves, and accordingly, we have to proceed further. That would be my.
Right. Great.
Thank you, sir.
two comments which have come in. I'd like both of them to come forward. Suresh says, teaching the teacher will be the new challenge immediately. And Manisha says the utility of a classroom will be questioned. Would both of you like to elaborate on that? Either of you can start, either Suresh or Manisha.
Can I, sir? Can I go ahead?
Go ahead.
So the reason why I put that, I shared my skepticism with you. Now that children are, especially younger children, are at home, and even if there is a blended learning, as you seem to be suggesting, there is always this possibility that one can go back to online methods and not come back to a classroom. There has to be a sufficient reason for us to bring our children back into the classroom, especially the younger ones, even the older ones as such. Second, the thing about classrooms as agencies of socialization is frequently brought up in any discussion on classrooms. But the fact of the matter is, if my child can socialize in a football field, then why would I send him to a school? So, the socialization explanation for classrooms doesn't really attract that much of attraction. So therefore, classrooms will have to find new reasons for gaining
For their existence.
Yes, acceptability and respectability, both. That's it. They have to become collective spaces for reflection. Unless that, and there has to be a change in both. The most people I see here are value driven, but that may not be the case across the teachers. That is where training comes in, as Mr. Suresh has said. So therefore, there has to be a change in the value system of both the teacher and the taught in that sense of the term, which is very important to my mind.
Okay, great. Kishan, would you like to come back to your point, the point that blended learning is ultimately about adaptability?
Yes, sir. I feel that what would happen is that if there could be a few classes which could be online at various points of time, certain classes or certain subjects which need face-to-face learning might need students to probably congregate into a classroom. The blend between both such aspects will have to be accepted as the new norm going forward, and each one will have its own way.
I'll come to Shruti in a moment, but before that, I just thought I'll make a point. Most institutions are saying now that even when we open in September, October, given the requirements of physical distancing, given the changes we are seeing, we may only be able to bring in 1/3, 1/4, or half our students at a given point of time. Now, it's in this context that blended learning becomes important. If half my students are going to be in the classroom, what happens to the other half? The other half would be still learning, still pursuing their education, still learning their skills, but may not be in that formal classroom setting where they may be coming only possibly 3 days a week or 4 days a week. The remaining days, they are actually going to be engaged with learning in other formats, which could be online, or in some, again, this varies from course to course, or it could be project-based learning. It could be internship-driven learning. Now, all these innovations, I think, are something we are going to see happening in the post-COVID world. Universities are already asking their faculty, let us not change our syllabi, but let us see which parts of the syllabi can be negotiated through virtual classrooms, which part of the syllabi can be negotiated through online classrooms. Do we need to tweak some of that? Can some of that be done through project ways? So now this is something we are going to see as we move forward. Satyaprakash ji, you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
So this blending of the blending of contact and non-contact classes very, very relevant and important. However, its application for various age groups, I mean for like younger age groups,
yes,
it may not be that relevant because they're the learning by physical interaction between the teacher and the children is very, very important.
Sure.
Whereas for higher classes, maybe in the college and PhD and MPhil, that level classes, executive programs, it is very, very relevant.
Sure, sure. Anybody else would like to step in on this?
Sir, Ankita has raised her hand.
Okay, Ankita, go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, Ankita. Yeah.
I had raised my hand for another
Sorry.
point.
Yeah,
but
go
then,
ahead, go ahead.
regarding the blended learning, I believe that, people would come with different mindsets.
Okay.
And they would obviously want to try and see what best they can do with the available resources. So I think everybody wants to do something and not just be confined to the four walls. They will definitely make the level best, try the level best to do whatever is possible because they want to experience and learn. And, this is the phase where we have felt that, what we are missing. So I think they would want to make the most out of it.
Sure. Shireen, you wanted to say something.
So my focus is on the last part of your slide on blended learning, content in context. Because I think the immediacy of learning will become very important now in this.
Very true,
When
very true.
Everything should be immediate for the student because whether we are going to do it online or offline. But I think that is, to me, the most important part of that slide, that the content will have to be in context.
Right. Guruswamy, you say that the online class would not be really effective when you are talking about certain technical courses. Would you like to go ahead on that? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir, definitely, sir.
Yeah.
Because delivering lecturer is different from assessing the delivering of lecture from lecturers is different, sir, actually. The student cannot understand very easily. But in classes, we can assess very easily, sir. Eye-to-eye contact is much. Blended learning classes only suitable for theory, sir, not for practical oriented.
Okay. There may be people who challenge that position, but let's leave that for now. Two critical comments. I want two people coming in, Srinivas Rao and then Shivram. I want both of you to come in.
Sir, I will take a chance, sir.
Yeah. Srinivas Rao first and then Shivram.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, my idea is regarding the placement, sir.
Yeah.
Placements will become the first step immediately after the admissions. And based on their earlier graduation qualification, and the student will be engaged partly with the job and will be studying, doing, as you said earlier, some part of the classes with the blended learning, online technology, and like a weekend, he will be coming like executive education. He will be coming to the institution, learning, etc. This is the new phase, according to my guess.
Sure, you're right. I would only request some of our management faculty to come in. I have a slightly different perspective on that. I believe project learning, internship is not for me a post-placement result, but for me that would be the pathway to placement. I think companies would be evaluating the learners as part of the internship, as part of the project, and any final commitment would come at a later stage. But I would want others to come in on that also.
Sir, Balaji Rohia, sir, can I say something?
Balaji, go ahead. And then Ritika had said somebody else. Shivram will come in a moment. Balaji,
sir,
Rohit, Shivram, that order.
Sir, I have three things to discuss.
Yes.
One is, I think education is going to become more fragmented going forward if it is going to be online. Why? Because I feel that if somebody wants to study in a good university, for example, Jain University, somebody wants to study who's in Bihar, that person, if there is online, would like to come in and directly join Jain University from Bihar. Doesn't have to come physically to Bangalore and study with Jain University. So if the same thing continues across universities, I think the offering by the institute is going to be more fragmented.
Right.
And second,
but Balaji, can I make another point? For one segment of society, like somebody who is working and then does not want to leave the job, now this option becomes very exciting. But then for somebody who is completing school and getting into college, would you not believe that for some time at least, for a decade more at least, the desire to actually go into a formal setting of learning may still be there?
So there
I
is
don't
no
know.
alternate for physical learning, I think, because we all enjoy sitting with somebody, discussing with somebody, having lunch with somebody, having a break with. I think nobody can replace a physical classroom. But if somebody say, second thing I want to say, adding to that was, what is going to be the costing? Because if I'm getting a not formal MBA physical classroom with 10 lakh rupees, if an online is available at 5 lakh rupees, I'm ready to make that compromise and sacrifice. Easy
Okay.
go.
Okay. Rohit, you are wanting to say something? Yeah. Sorry,
Yes, sir.
Balaji, you have another point to make?
That's all, sir. Only 2
Yeah.
points.
Thank you. Rohit, you were wanting to say
Yes, sir.
something? Yeah.
Yes, sir. So now when we talk about blended learning, there are two aspects to it. So I personally feel that students of the present generation are much more aware of how they have to use technology to a larger extent, which can be efficient and effective at the same time. So I feel blended learning can be a success when it comes in both from the instructor side as well as the student side. So it's a very important role that we as instructors have to play when it comes to using blended learning to the most effective way.
So that's why I said right to the back, see, the mindsets need to be changed in that, you see.
Yes, sir, very true.
Sirisha, you wanted to say something? Is Sirisha there?
Sir.
Sirisha, can you unmute your mic and make your point?
Yeah, I would like to say that if you look at activities-based learning, it will be an effective model for business schools.
Sure.
That was my area. Being a manager.
Yeah, sure. Shivram, you were wanting to say something?
Yeah, so this content in context is very crucial from a blended learning perspective, because when students participate online, they have access to too much of information. For example, if you search something in Google or Apple, it will start showing up some information which you start liking. So it can be biased, and you might miss a lot of other information. And these information are location specific as well. So in that sense, putting that content in context is very important for the blended learning to be effective.
Right, that's true. That's true. Ramya, you were wanting to say something. I'm sorry, I didn't give you a chance.
I was mostly concerned about in terms of blended learning when you talk about like group projects and socialization as being the key modalities of taking the classroom forward. I think we need to even look at internet as the ultimate equalizer and the challenges that it poses. Even in terms of blended learning, the only blend doesn't come through via, let's like drawing binaries between online platforms vis-a-vis the traditional setup. I think that's always been there to some extent. Because when we look at research and we give postgraduate level students research-based education, they go through those different blended situations already. So to think that all of this is new also, I think there should be some level of caution, and we need to see how we go ahead with that. That was the only point I wanted to make.
Wonderful.
Sir, Abhishek.
Yeah, Abhishek, go ahead. Yeah, Abhishek, go ahead.
Okay. So good evening, sir. I would just like to compare this, the education system. It's going to be a combination of online and offline. For example, sir, when the OOT platforms came to India, they said theaters are going to take a back seat, but that didn't happen. So in the future, like how Netflix and PVR coexist, we will have classroom teaching combined with blended. I think that is way more educative and informative.
Sure. Let me take just 5-6 minutes to make the future points, because then I want to open it up for a general discussion. My point is the new age classroom will not be limited to the 4 walls, which it now or in the past was limited to. Last week when I was telling a parent that a student we will only, in many universities are saying we are going to get in only 1/3 of the students to the class. The parents' immediate reaction was, then what will my child do in the remaining 2/3 time? And it took me some time to explain to him that in the remaining 2/3 time also she will be learning, but may not be learning in the way that she did in the formal classroom of the past. Now, I think all of us need to prepare ourselves for this changed mindset, that learning will not necessarily happen in that conventional classroom alone. That may form a percentage of it, maybe a large percentage. I wouldn't like to hazard a guess at this stage as to what percentage, but then I think the classroom today for academic learning gets stretched beyond that 4 walls in which we used to hold those 1-hour sessions. Now I think there will be other ways also in which it happens. Let me quickly come to the other 3 points and then open it up for discussion. Now, a lot of us since the last 80 minutes have been talking of the role of technology. How important technology is going to be in the blended classroom, in the blended learning. While I endorse that technology is going to be critical, I'm making these 3 important points. Technology will mediate learning, it will not control learning. It should not. I hope it does not. Technology is not a replacement of the classroom, but an aid for this new classroom we are talking about, this new borderless classroom that we are talking about. And friends, my last point there is important. In the future classroom, learning is to come first, not technology come first. Our focus has to be that whatever we transact, whichever platform we use for transacting it, at the end of the day, it is about learning. Let me move to the 4th rubric, assessment. I think we'll have to abandon our stereotypes vis-a-vis assessment. All of us will have to relook our continuous internal assessment modes. Already some universities have got into online exams for the final exam. They are using MCQs. Over time, we will have to improve the way we do our MCQs. They have to be more not information or knowledge oriented, but application oriented. And I think course by course, subject by subject, we will have to look at our assessment patterns without compromising on quality, without compromising on accountability. Bringing in flexibility would be the mantra. This, I think, is something the new classroom is definitely going to see. And finally, of course, our role as the facilitator is going to be very visible. In this new classroom, we are not going to teach, we are going to facilitate. And I think, as many of you said in the last 80 minutes, the teacher-student relationship is going to undergo a very, very, very major transformation. I would not be pessimistic in saying that that relationship is not going to be for the good. I'm sure at the end of the day, with the learner's desire to be able to make the best of the education, of the faculty's desire to be able to give the best to that student, somewhere that connect will continue to be maintained and continue to be strengthened. But I would believe in the new age classroom, these would be the 5 important dimensions of change, which would require for me not just the right tools and techniques, but the mindsets of people here would necessarily need very important and maybe even in some cases very dramatic changes. Friends, I'd stop here. I'll just take a minute in the end to make these final 4 points I wanted to make. But now, Ritika, Priyanka, it is yours. You have to now moderate and ask people to come in and say something. I'm going to now sit back, and I think everybody is okay with extending this session by another 10 minutes. Let's sit back and listen to, let me sit back and listen to reflections from different people.
Sir, we have 2 very interesting comments which have come in a few minutes back. Jagan Mohan saying that user satisfaction is important, and here the students are the users and we need constant feedback from them for all the sessions that we are holding. And similarly, Dr. Shruti Naik says that blended learning will complement traditional teaching, but it will never replace it.
Let's ask both of them to elaborate on what they meant.
So Jagan Mohan sir, would you like to come in, please?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, my idea is actually when we design a system, here teaching method, we need to take consider the users actually. Here, students are our users, and even parents also we have to consider.
Right.
That's my point.
Right. And Dr. Shruti,
Dr. Shruti Nayak.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Yes.
Yeah, I meant to say that traditional teaching will be there. It cannot be replaced completely by blended learning. So there will be some activities which we will have to involve in daily classroom teaching where the students can be involved in learning by doing. But apart from that, the basic structure or the basic teaching process, that is the discussion, dialogue and discourse, which we have been implementing in the B schools, will continue because unless and until the faculty imparts the knowledge, the discussion will not start, and unless the discussion is not complemented by the blended learning, then the discourse part by the student will not happen. I mean to say that the student will not be able to learn completely.
Sure.
Only we involve them in activities. So traditional teaching will be there, but even we have to involve the students by making them do activities and learn from that. Reinforce the traditional teaching, basically.
Right.
Dr. KSH, you could make a point, and then I would invite Sunita Shastri to make her point, please.
Yeah.
And we have Mr. Anup Ghoshal also after that.
Yeah. Quickly. Yeah.
Sir, your mic is muted, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah. Last year, we suggested to students that mobiles are banned in the classroom. Now, we are asking the students to use it. Once they come back to the classroom later, next semester, what is the way that we have to address the issue? I want your suggestion. Sir.
This is a you see, I used to tell the students, you can bring your mobile to the classroom, but I want you to do the talking and not your mobile to do the talking. So you will have this now. Sometimes you tell us to use it, sometimes you don't tell us to use it. Now take a quick decision. I think I would believe if I develop my rapport with my students, they understand what are the negotiables and non-negotiables in a given situation. That when we talked of online classroom, the mobile was needed. When we are talking of a face-to-face classroom, the mobile could be a disruptor. So I think somewhere that dialogue with the learners as to, and to be able to convince them as to how a particular platform can be best used by all of us. I think for me, at least, that would be the way forward we take that.
Sunita Shastri, please make your point.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Sir, I have been listening to all the comments, and one thing which I feel is, are all of us forced to look at the positives of online coaching? Maybe because of the trust which comes from the government, or maybe because of the stress we get from the workplace, wherever we are we all forced only to look at the positive side? And yes, the negatives, whatever we pointed, that is only somewhere limited to the differences what we have, like the day-to-day differences which we feel, the comfort zone what we had earlier, and the new challenges what we face today. In case, at least if the autonomous institutions or probably challenging people like you who dare to take new steps in education, if at all we come out looking at the new avenues apart from online coaching, or maybe as you said in the blended education, having online as one of the options, if at all we start thinking, then probably our creativity could be much more utilized than only looking at the options which are there for us, because whatever is there online, we have to put one or the other picture or maybe a video, and we should put that. Maybe we could be more creative.
I'll make two comments on that. One,
yes, sir.
All of us in the last 45 days took to online. Some of us with greater enthusiasm, some of us with lesser enthusiasm, some of us with no enthusiasm. But we did that because we had no choice.
I
right?
agree.
We had no choice. either our institutions asked us to do it, or we also realized that this is the only way I can keep myself engaged with my students. And all of us face challenges the initial days. All of us were worried during the initial days.
Yes, sir.
When I took my first online classroom, all that 38 years of experience went down the drain. I couldn't use much of that in the online classroom. I was on probation immediately. Now, after 48 days of teaching online, I think I have learned some of the skills which are needed online. So at the end of the day, there is always apprehension with a new technique, with a new method. And you see, my point is, when a particular method becomes inevitable for us to be able to, I will not like to use the word adjust, inevitable for us to be able to accept, I think the question then comes up, how do I adapt to it?
Okay.
How do I adapt to it, keeping in mind my larger goals? You see, that's my response to the issues you raised.
Mr. Anup Ghoshal, if you're online, could you come in, please?
Anup Ghoshal.
Okay, I think Raji also has raised a point. Please,
Yeah,
could you
Raji
elaborate?
has raised a hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. She's also not there.
No,
Raji, go ahead.
Raji?
Yeah. No, that's not Raji, that's Shiv Shankari. And she's,
Oh, yeah.
for some reason, she has said Raji. Shiv Shankari, go ahead.
Yes, so sorry, that was from the iPad connection,
Okay.
so
Go
the
ahead,
name
go
got
ahead,
changed.
good.
I have been listening to the lectures from the beginning. Maybe this point has come, but just to add on that, it may be an additional responsibility for a teacher or a professor to, like from the performing arts as a perspective. So now, since many YouTube videos are available, so and students are more into learning from those videos or audios, they are used to it already, even before one-to-one class. So when we are taking classes like for music or for dance or any performing arts, so I think we have to improve on, like Rashmi said, one perspective, it's difficult to take online
Right.
classes. And as even Madhulika pointed out, we have to maintain the traditional aspect when we have to improve the physical contact classes. So we can just, I thought of one point where you were mentioning that we have post-COVID, we have to maintain both online and physical classes. We have to manage both. So maybe we have some ideas like we record our own classes and pass on to the students and tell them to present in the personal classes. So some teachers' responsibility to make students focus, interest and
Right.
concentration to be persistent on.
My only point, Shiv Shankari, I'll add is when I use a video or a recording and show it to my students, I think my responsibility doubles there.
Yeah.
I need to then also provide a narration either before or after. I need to have gone through it beforehand several times to know what would I want the students to notice in that. So it's not just showing it to them and saying, okay, now you saw that, let me move to the next.
Yeah.
You see, you will have to do a very long debriefing with them on that, which would require you to actually have done your research on that video much before you actually took it into the classroom. See?
Yes.
Yeah. Sonu, would you like to add something from Australia? What time of the day is it for you there? You would unmute your mic, unmute your mic. Unmute your mic. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, it's 11 minutes past 10 in the night. And I've been listening to everyone's comments. And this particular part about blended learning. After I moved to Australia, I've seen my children both in school and in the university adapt to this blended learning very smoothly. In fact, I think it is a very, very attractive proposition that is placed before us, even though it is in the context of this COVID situation. But I want to be very optimistic, and I believe that 50% of our population is a young population. And I look at the situation as opening up employment opportunities because most of the market is coming to India now. And so this kind of a learning is going to help the youth be employed as well as to do, on-site learning as well as online learning as well. And it is going to help them. Of course, it is going to be taxing for the teachers. As a teacher, I cannot deny that. And I've heard many of the teachers here say as to how much of an added stress it is for them. But considering that we are university teachers, we have done some bit of online interaction with our students, but it is very difficult for the primary teachers to handle their students. This has been my experience here.
Ritika, Priyanka, maybe I would like to give time to somebody who has not spoken till now. 2 minutes more for anybody who wants to come in who has not spoken till now.
Sir, Suresh and Ekalavya.
Ekalavya, go ahead.
Suresh.
And you'll have to specify, Ritika, which Suresh, because there are many Sureshes. But Ekalavya first. Go ahead, Ekalavya.
So, coming back to the point where we were saying, when things were imposed on us by the government that, we have to conduct online classes, I think, the faculty and the student fraternity both need a big round of applause, because within a very short span of time, they were very, quickly able to adapt to the whole thing of taking online classes, because it's completely new to both the parties. And I think both the sides have done fantastic. The faculty adapting to taking online classes and students getting on the online mode of accepting online classes. And it was in fact, it was a fantastic job done, I would say.
Sure. So like Veena said, we will have a party after the COVID ends, and both for teachers and for students.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Ritika, which Suresh was it?
Someone who raised their hand, the name only says Suresh.
Sadia is raising her hand. Sadia, go ahead if Suresh is not yet online. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would like to share two images which recently came to my mind. So I'm doing my research on conflict narratives, which is basically on Kashmir and Northeast conflict. So as part of my research reading, I got to know that over a period of time, how education was affected in conflict areas like Kashmir, and how because they had very less access to technology, the education of most of the people were affected to a very large extent. And the second, there was a Facebook post which I saw recently, which showed that a person saying that at least now you get to know what we are going through. Do you know what a curfew means? Do you know what a lockdown means? So this was really a painful thing, so this is what we have been suffering for the past 2 months, and those people have been suffering for years together. And the second image which brought a kind of happiness to my mind was one of my students, one of my optional English student, in a Zoom class. She was attending from a very remote far-off village in North India, and there were farmers and people working in the field where I could see in the background. So this is what I feel is a very essence of the new, So you are able to surpass the geosocial space concept.
Sure. Okay, one last comment from anybody.
Has said there's some question. Jacqueline, are you there?
Also, Suresh is online now. So
Suresh, go ahead. Suresh?
Sir, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, I have a small question, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, in our whole discussion, where does it leave the government and rural students, sir? Because they're already plagued by infrastructural issues like ICT issues, classroom issues, and where does it leave them in the post-COVID education scenario?
Now, as I answer Suresh's question, let me also quickly take 2 minutes to go through my last slide as I answer Suresh's question. Suresh, for me, the key idea going forward is, if effective learning is the goal, do I need to understand that, do I need to keep in mind that in different contexts, how this effective learning happens would be very different. The boys and girls you talked about in a rural area who have limited access to a wide range of modern technological resources, I would need to gear that effective learning to their needs. For them, the blended learning would have a totally different meaning, because unless we provide them with the wherewithal to be able to access online learning, it really would not have any effect at all. So you're right. I've been saying that once we get back to some normalcy in terms of getting students into the classroom, I think the clear focus in rural and semi-rural areas has to be this makeup that has to happen with regard to the loss of 2 months. Because in many, for children who come from middle class families, upper middle class families, and well-to-do families, they have had the opportunity of blended learning. But let me also make the point, some of my students who have taught who are teaching in government colleges and schools are telling me that they have gone ahead with online learning also, and students have adapted to it. There are cases where 3-4 students who live in a rural area have come together and sat in that online class together and benefited from it. So I think there are some success stories which will come out in the next few months of that happening. But sadly, those success stories would be very few, though we would have wished it to be much wider. So you're right in what you say, which is also linked to the second point I'm making. I think reaching out to the learner involves this continuous process of rediscovery. We need to keep asking ourselves again and again, day in and day out, month after month, how do we reinvent the processes? How do we tweak the processes we are following to be able to achieve the ultimate goal? The partnerships we need to talk about, I think we have not talked about it much today. I think even in higher education, parents are going to have a critical role in bridging or in accepting the new modes of learning that are going to come forward. You see, parents have been telling me in the online classes, what is it that children learn now? I think somewhere being able to sensitize our parents to what's happening. In fact, that's one of the things in the university I'm suggesting, that we should have workshops not only for students and for teachers, but also for parents, because they are critical stakeholders who need to be brought into the process. And friends, at the end of the day, I think we need to, and we have talked about this today throughout, we need to adapt, we need to innovate, we need to be flexible, and we need to accept the situations we find ourselves in, and we need to recognize the new boundaries of our new classrooms, which will be there when we go back to the post-COVID world. So Priyanka and Ritika and Maithili ma'am, last words from your side, and let's wrap up the session. We are already 20 minutes ahead of, we have taken 20 minutes extra for the session.
Thank you so much, sir. I think so everyone will agree that this has been a very illuminating and a lovely session of interaction. And at the end of the day, as human beings, we're only left with one tool, and that is adaptation. So whatever the future holds, we have to be open to adapt ourselves to it.
I would like to thank all of our participants who have been very, very vocal with their points, with their discussion. And I think we really have been enthused with the response that we have got.